I'm Ken Vermeille, and this is App-solutely. If you ever wanted to build a mobile application, you have a couple of options. The first option is to build the app using the native framework or the native programming language that the phone developers want you to use. So for instance, if you wanted to build a iPhone application, you would use Objective-C or Swift. And if you wanted to build an Android application, you'd use Java and their many iterations of their programming language. But if you wanted to be ambitious and if you wanted to build both an iPhone and an Android app at the same time without hiring an extra team or two, you would go the React Native or the Flutter route. What these two platforms do is they give you the ability to build an app with one code base. Now, it's not as simple as that. Yes, there are caveats and things that you have to look out for, but the most important thing is that it does give you the baseline to do exactly what you want to do. Especially for simple apps, it is a godsend because if you want to get your idea off the ground and you want to tackle as many people as possible, this would be the way to do it. Now, back in the day, there used to be a lot of these kind of cross-platform application frameworks that would promise the ability for you to do this. And they were all terrible. I know this because I use all of them. I use Xamarin. I use the Flash thing that Adobe came out with. Because this was supposed to be a competitive advantage, being able to build and launch with one code base and ensuring that everything worked. Now, there was another route, which is the C+ route, but technically that was at a very high level and it wasn't necessarily awesome. The interesting thing is these two platforms, Flutter and React Native, they do get into the kind of core code to ensure that it is very performant. Now, this all started with React or Facebook's React. A couple of years ago, they came out with a platform called React. And React was really it was initially for the web, but it allowed people to really use JavaScript to build cool and awesome interfaces. This then later turned into React Native, and now we have the platform as it is today. Now, React Native is probably one of the best cross-platform app development platforms to date, mainly because they actually got it right. They didn't really focus on having things render within a web view, which was everybody else's solution. They got down into the code and made it look awesome. After that, Flutter came out and they essentially did the same thing, except instead of using JavaScript to write it, you use the Dart programming language. Now, when it comes to using these platforms, there are a couple of things that you want to know. For React, it is a JavaScript first, TypeScript if you are well versed. It is a JavaScript first platform. Essentially, in JavaScript, you are able to do almost anything. And if you're really great at JavaScript, you can mold the platform and make it do whatever you want. For Flutter, you have Dart. Now, Dart's not difficult to learn, but it is something to learn. From my experience and the experience of our devs, we've seen that Dart is a little bit more traditional. It's more software development rather than web development. And I mean traditional software development and where you're building banking apps and cool stuff like that. Both of these platforms are open source, meaning that you can essentially use it for free as long as you work with their terms and conditions. And both of these platforms have specific advantages and disadvantages that we're going to go into right now. First, let's talk about Flutter. With Flutter, the advantage is that your devs are able to really build performant, high quality user interfaces that look and feel native. React does it too, but it does require a little bit of work to get it perfect. With Flutter, it's performant out of the box. When working with Flutter, you get natively compiled code, meaning that when you use the Dart programming language, it compiles directly to the specific platform's main code. React Native does this, but Flutter does it slightly better. The also interesting thing about Flutter is that it has a widget-based architecture, meaning that there are pre-built components that are already optimized to render on the platform. So it'll render really awesome on iOS and it'll render really awesome on Android. It does have an extensible system for all of the widgets, so you can make it look and feel however you want it to look. The widgets are also really lightweight, meaning that they don't take long to render, they're small in size, and they make the actual development process pretty quick. Then there's the Skia rendering engine, which is their competitive advantage. It optimizes graphics rendering. It makes it so that you can do really awesome animations. It makes it so that you could have multiple things moving and interacting on your screen at one time. And it's fascinating, right? They're Google. They know what they're doing. But the combination of natively compiled code, their own rendering engine that works behind the scenes to make things really look nice, and the ability to have a pretty fast development cycle because of extensible standardized widgets makes Flutter really good. Now let's talk about React Native. React Native is great. We use React Native a lot, and we could be a little bit biased when it comes to this part, mainly because React Native has been out for way longer. React does also compile to native code. It maps to the native views on each platform's view ecosystem. Even though it's not as performant as Flutter, they have been improving over time, making the difference really not noticeable. In addition to that, React has an entire library of components just out of the box that are open source that you can use, and it has a great developer community. It is much easier to hire a React Native developer than it is to hire a Flutter developer. Because of this community and because it's been out for so long, there are more people who know how to manage React Native development. In addition, if you're a JavaScript developer and you want to jump into mobile development, you can carefully make the jump into mobile applications using your existing knowledge in JavaScript. So both platforms generally will work, but as with anything, it depends on what you want to do specifically. Are you building a mobile app that needs a lot of animations and a lot of graphics and a lot of just pizzazz? Then you would definitely go the Flutter route. If that's not important and if that's not necessarily it's not necessarily a requirement, then I would definitely go with the React Native route, mainly because it's easier to hire against. There are more people who build React Native applications, and it's just been out for a lot more. And the performance differences between both are negligible. You're not really going to see it unless you're coding terribly. And that's pretty much it for this episode. Please let me know what you think. If you have any comments or if you have any show ideas, either send an email to App-solutely@vermillionSky.com. And if you're looking for somebody to build or manage and grow your mobile app, feel free to reach out. We're here for you. Thanks.